put our application in the Hacking for Home Building Challenge. We know that draws the attention of Franklin Building Supply. They're like, what can we do together to help give you some tailwind?
On this episode of the Matthew Byrd Podcast,
building something new could be successful in any climate.
The founders of Flashpoint Building Systems,
creators of the revolutionary integrated layout system
that laser etches
precise building plans
onto subfloor panels. Winners of the Boise State University
Hacking for Home Building Challenge.
Patrick Churchman and Nick Stoppello.
For 12 hours, I was just answering questions. Question. This is bad. So
Perfect.
I don't
Keep
remember
going.
this part of the story.
I think Nick rage blacked out after this.
Since startups are easy,
We were looking at that going, how do we make this simple?
Pat had made the comment when I was in architecture school, we used to build to scale models. We would literally print the floor plan onto a piece of paper and I would build it right on
I
top.
went to him in confidence. You own a construction company. You have any projects we can try it out?
that swing happens of a nice to have to it has to happen.
This is even bigger than what we thought we provide from a value standpoint.
Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right. Well, let's start with intros. For those that don't know you, we'll intro yourselves, what your role is and your company, and then we'll go backwards into a bit of the background story.
So my name is Pat Churchman. I am one of the owners and co-founders of Flashpoint Building Systems.
Nick Stoppello, Chief Janitorial Officer and CEO.
Same title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Co-founder, just they're all semi-synonymous with each other, but yeah.
Sweet. And before we go to the background story, in a short explanation, what is your company? What do you do?
So Flashpoint Building Systems developed a process and a product and service where we take the complete plan set for permit plan set for construction, and we make one master overlay drawing that's legible. Think all the different trade disciplines right over the top of each other, massage keynotes, things like that. So it can actually be read in one piece of quote unquote paper. And then we actually lay a grid system that represents the building material itself, primarily being the 4 foot by 8 foot sheets of tongue and groove floor sheathing decking. So a 4 by 8 grid goes over the top of that and it makes a giant puzzle. We then laser engrave all the building information right onto each one of those 4 by 8 pieces of building material and ship it to the job site. So when it goes down and is installed just like it normally would be, there's a life-size, complete, coordinated master plan that the contractor, anybody that shows up to the job, can build right on top of.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. I love hearing how people are getting innovative with technologies to solve problems. So before we talk more about current business, let's go back a little bit, because especially in the startup world, right? There's the story or the journey of like, why does this exist, or why did you think to build it? So maybe we could start with a little background story on each of you of like what's some of your story in your career journey that then led to where you guys connected for this.
Yeah. So Nick and I have known each other since we were 6-ish. So
A long time.
Yeah.
Very
been doing
long time.
a lot of stupid
That's
stuff
awesome.
together
Yes.
since very little kids. So we both ended up going to University of Idaho. I studied architecture up there. Nick was in
Lots of things.
yeah
Yeah.
operations management.
That's what I ended on. Yeah.
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 Okay. So after school, I came down to Boise. I worked on my master's degree and worked at an architecture firm for a handful of years. After a couple of years there, I was really close to getting my license. Started that process, and kind of through that, I was just a little bit frustrated, I think, with the industry, with some of the things that we were doing, that it kind of felt like I was being pushed in a direction where we're doing stuff because that's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
And I was, to be honest, just a little disenfranchised with architecture after a few years. And I had an opportunity to go work in construction. So I left. I went to work for a construction company here locally, coming in with a master's degree in architecture. and the previous design experience, they hazed me pretty good. I think I literally spent the first year like sweeping floors and just doing manual labor. So,
What you're doing now?
yeah, I know, right? Really left that great career for this. No, it was a really good learning experience, and kind of through that, I worked my way up into a superintendent position, and then from a superintendent position into more like project management. They had me doing a variety of things with the design background as well. So I got to kind of see I would say like 30,000 foot view of the entire industry from both ends, and then kind of see where the collisions were happening, problems. And I'll let Nick fill in his portion of the story up until this point.
Yep.
Obviously, Pat and I went not K, but maybe 5 through 12 together, plus or minus, here local in Boise, Meridian Eagle. Didn't make it very far. But went to school at the University of Idaho. I thought I was going to go into medicine, be a doctor, but it turns out chemistry is pretty hard. And at that point in my life, I was much more interested in chasing other things.
Yes.
And drinking other things.
Yes.
As college kids do when they get some freedom. So anyway, I pivoted, and I got an opportunity to actually we're part of Phi Gamma Delta, Fiji, the fraternity up there. And that summer after our sophomore year, we went into a remodel on the house. And at that point, I was the maintenance chair, mostly because I knew the difference between a Phillips and a Flat.
Yep.
But anyway, that was my job in the house. And so the alumni board asked me to be the student representation over the summer during the course of that remodel, and help be the liaison between the actual fraternity chapter members as well as alumni. And so I basically was forced on as a laborer to the contractor that won the job. And I quickly realized that I really liked the tangible product and the progress that I saw every single day. And it was cool that it was personal, that it was, a place that I was going to live in.
Yeah. Makes you care about it more?
Yeah.
Maybe? See how it affects you?
And in the not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but the Greek system has so much history, specifically at that campus, that it was cool to peel the layers back of all the years of memories and things that had happened in that house. And so it did make it incredibly personal for me, and that's still a tiny little badge of honor that I hold in my pocket. But anyway, so I really liked what I was doing, and I'm like, okay, well, I know with working with the guys on the project that I'm probably not going to last very long in the manual labor component. So how do I position myself to where I have constructability knowledge, but also put myself in a position where I can be in management? Construction management was the kind of the light bulb moment there for me. And I'm like, okay, well, U of I doesn't have a construction management program. The nearest university that does was Wazoo, but I didn't have the money to go to Wazoo. And then the only other alternative was coming back home to Boise and going to Boise State. And at that point in my life, I was vehemently against going to Boise State. Yeah. And honestly, mostly coming back home. The point of going to Moscow was far enough away from home for me to become my own person.
Yep.
But also close enough that if I wanted to get home on the weekend, I could.
Cool. Yeah.
But anyway, so I got my teeth cut that summer, and then for the next 2 summers after that, I got a similar position, but with a larger general contractor in Seattle. So I went and did basically the same thing on bigger projects, project engineer style positions as an intern, and then at the conclusion of so I decided, because there was no CM program at U of I, I'll just go into business. That's broad enough to where I can apply it, and then I can work my way in the back door for construction management by doing internships. So I did it that way. And the company that I worked for in Seattle extended me a full-time offer when I graduated. Went over there, and I was there for 3.5, 4 years. And I built everything from data centers to Class A high-rise office buildings. It was a pretty expansive list of project types.
Yep.
But it was big construction. And I just found myself, I'm like, all I do is spend the good money that I make here on plane tickets to go home because this is where all my family is.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, Boise's growing. It's big enough to justify making that move, and cost of living's less. So it'll be a good move for me. So I moved back home in the spring of 16 and got hired on at now the largest general contractor in the state. As a project engineer, worked for them in the public works division, I guess, and then moved into a project manager role, managing the same type of portfolio, public works. And at that point in time, Pat and I both had 8 or 9 years respectively in the industry, whether that be in an internship function, laborer, or professional capacity, being a project manager or draftsman, architect, proposals, prepare kind of positions. And long story short, when you come back home, you go get beers with your buddies.
Yep.
People that you haven't seen in a while, and you try to pick back up where you left off. And the beers, after a few meetups with Pat, were where the quote unquote
led
Flashpoint
to a startup.
Yeah. Our brilliant plan.
Yes.
Number 87. But
at the time, we were both working on different projects, different project typologies, different crews. And it seemed like when we get together, we talk about the problems we have on our job sites, and they were
commiserated. It was literally just licking our wounds and seeing if somebody else hated their position as much as they did.
And everybody does that, but most people, that's all they do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Maybe that's where we should have.
Yeah. Some days it feels like it.
We'll have to talk about that more. So.
Yeah. But anyways, kind of around that conversation, we kind of drove down to the root of the problem being that the people we were in charge of managing were not really kind of taking the responsibility to read the plan sets that they were given, or those, and this was probably more common, was the plan sets they were given were poorly designed. Maybe not poorly designed, but
they represented intent at best.
It was intent, but it's also construction's complicated. You've got a lot of different moving pieces, parts. And the industry is so fragmented that even the person being in charge of everything put together, generally your project architect, they even have a fairly fragmented view of the building systems because they're relying on their engineers.
And they've got their own style too. Like everybody, they come from the same education and background, and they know what the boxes they have to check, but the way they do things is just a little bit different relative to each person. So it's not standardized across projects.
Yep.
So, I mean, ultimately that leads to just, I think, a lot of confusion, and what trade specifically takes precedent over another.
Yep.
And these are the questions that the general contractor is left trying to figure out every day. And you got 20 RFIs, you've got ASIs coming back and forth, and it's information overload.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'd get to my job site about 6 a.m, and for 12 hours I was on the first floor, going to the fourth floor, going back to the first floor, just answering questions. Question. And it was, a lot of times it was something simple that, even in black and white there on the drawings.
Yep.
But because of what was happening across the hall, that wasn't a simple question anymore. And so there needed to be more coordination.
Yep.
Just about how everything was supposed to go together. So we were looking at that going, okay, how do we make this simpler? How do we make it so that someone who hasn't had a month to review the plans, doesn't understand every trade, can walk in, immediately look at what's around them, and get a pretty good understanding of what needs to happen?
The other thing that we recognized early on was, as an industry, we have known for over a decade that we have a labor issue.
Yeah.
And it's not just labor being a pulse and, a core body temperature. It's experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's specifically for our generation, we were told by our parents, at least I was, you're going to college. You're going to go get a white collar job because that's how you're going to propel your family further than I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my family are primarily entrepreneurs, but there's been a lot of blue collar side hustles that, facilitated them to do that at the end of their professional careers. And so, that never even crossed my mind to go learn a trade. And I started comparing notes with other people that are our age, and everybody was saying the same thing. And so then we were like, okay, so not only do we not have enough people to put the work in place, but the people we do have are phasing out, and they're not passing the tribal knowledge and the experience effectively on to the next person, which means even if we started recruiting and getting people to join the ranks now, we're still too little too late. And at some point, we're just going to have a bunch of people that know that they need to do a job, but they don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, okay, zoom the lens out. How do we solve for this problem that allows us to basically leverage the people that we do have available to us to be as effective as somebody who's been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years?
Yep.
And even if it's incremental and just like allowing them to holistically understand how their scope of work interfaces with something adjacent to it, to where they can actually think through the why they're installing it a certain way without raising their hand and saying, I don't know what to do, or worse, they just install it how they did on the last job,
which is how you get all the clashes, and problems,
and nobody knows that that's a problem or that they did it that way until it becomes a problem down the line. And so the cost and the time to fix it have compounded exponentially.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, okay, pump the brakes, right? We have a tool, a communication tool that is incredibly complicated, intricate, and requires a level of expertise that is not readily available in the labor market itself on average. And that problem's going to get worse. How do we make that same tool that a lot of people have put a lot of time and effort into creating to pass on the vision, the intent, the requirements in such a way that allows anybody, regardless of their background, to walk onto the job site and immediately say, this is installed correctly or it is not. And just make it very black and white that way.
So, I mean, obviously the problem we're talking about it's huge. But for us, the simple solution was, if we make that plan information more visible, then at least we can cut down on some of the questions. So that's how we came up with the idea of, okay, let's print the floor plans directly onto the material, and try and eliminate some of the things like keynotes. And one that I saw all the time was just dimensional inaccuracies, and this goes into like the softwares that are becoming more and more popular for drafting and design, engineering, all of them. Those softwares themselves, they're great, and they're but they're also incredibly complex. There's a lot going on. It's easy to miss things. Revit specifically allows you to snap dimension strings to different portions of a wall assembly. And again, one that we saw all the time was dimension strings getting snapped to face of drywall,
the wrong
face of stud. And so if we could eliminate someone even needing to pull out a tape measure, and we could just say, hey, it's already on the floor for you. Put it where it needs to go. Stuff like, having a bathroom that was too small for ADA clearance, that goes away. Which in a commercial setting becomes a really big issue.
Since startups are easy, what?
It's all relative.
How did you start? So you had the idea, you saw some pain points, back to, beers and fun ideas.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
So we basically identified what problem we defined the problem.
Yeah.
That's where we're at in the conversation, right? We defined the problem.
We made a sweet logo.
Or
How we started.
what we thought was the problem. And then, candidly, we were basically just drink until something crazy enough comes out of our mouth to where we actually, it's so crazy that it might actually work. We sound like alcoholics.
Look, we have good breweries in Idaho.
Yeah,
You're in construction.
It's creative fuel. We'll put it that way. Anyway, so we were sitting there, and Pat had made the comment about, hey, when I was in architecture school, we used to build to scale models, and the way we did that is we would literally print the floor plan onto a piece of paper, and then I would take my Elmer's glue and my popsicle sticks, and I would build it right on top of that.
And then someone had another drink, and they were like, "What if?"
And then we're like, okay,
exactly
so how do we print the plans and lay them out? And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a great idea until it snows, rains, anybody shows up with mud on their boots. It's just not the actual printing on a piece of sacrificial paper doesn't work. Turns out when we went to file our patent and did research, somebody had done that in the 80s, and go figure, it didn't work. It never took off. But then I don't remember who said this, but we made the comment to each other, what if we had sharks with laser beams? And in that moment, I was like maybe sans sharks, but laser beams might be a way to accomplish what we're doing.
No sharks, just lasers.
No sharks, no lasers. It would have been cool if we could figure out the shark part. People would be buying it like hotcakes, I'm sure. But anyway, so we were like, okay, let's put the glasses down.
Yeah.
Put a pin in this, sleep on it, and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that point on, it literally turned into brainstorming sessions where we didn't have a whiteboard. We didn't have a way to actually be organized. So we used the sliding glass door at my house to write down all the ideas, the things we were talking about, what we could or couldn't do. And then a lot of we're both working full-time jobs during this.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, well, we have the wherewithal and the interest enough to where we at least need to keep pulling on the yarn. And we'll do it at our own pace, but, we need to not just dilly-dally. We need to, if we're going to do it, we need to do it. And so we just started doing independent research and comparing notes to each other. And I don't remember how we came to the CNC solution, but I think ultimately what it ended up with is we were like, okay, we can't print it on paper and roll it out, but we might be able to print it right onto the building material. We then started going down the rabbit hole of understanding how much a large format printer would cost and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, it doesn't pencil. The economics don't work. And so they're like, okay, well, how can we achieve markings in the same level of detail without having the expenditure of a large format printer, but also the consumables being ink? And that's where the shark with laser beam came into play. And so we ran with that.
That was, again, going back to architecture school, when we were making those models, there was a laser cutter, a pretty rudimentary laser cutter that the school had. And I remembered you could set that thing to cut all the way through the material, or if you wanted to print bricks, you could dial the intensity back a little bit, and you could just score with it. And like Nick said, the cost of going to a large format, actual printer to do, an uneven surface like OSB was, I think the smallest quote we saw was $750,000.
That's it. Yeah.
Just to get one piece of equipment started. Yeah. That's, without a business going or anything like that. And so we're like, okay, how do we, how can we make this work? And there was at the time one company that we could find in the continental United States that was making a CNC that had a laser attachment to it. I think there's quite a few now, but
it's pretty common now. Well, that's not true. What made them unique is they had a hybrid system where it actually had a CNC router that could cut with a traditional router end mill,
Mm-hmm.
but then also had a CO2 laser component to it, to where without doing two independent tables,
Yeah.
put it right on the
Swap
same
it out.
table,
Yeah.
and it just picks a different tool to use based on
Yeah.
the toolpath. That's
Yeah.
what made them unique.
Right. And part of the reason that those are kind of a newer technology too is that machine in specific, as it's moving across a gantry system, it's got the engine attached to it to actually cut through that material for the CNC portion of it, and that movement, that huge motor has to move with the laser.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fairly complex system when you think about the laser needs really fine motor movements, and the CNC itself has this huge motor attached to it that would normally go at quite a bit slower speeds. So it was a pretty ingenuitive system that this company had come up with. That so we got on a plane and went to look at it. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Yeah, we opened our mouth.
Yeah.
To some gray hair people in our sphere, and they looked at us and said, "What do you need to prove to us that this can't work?" And we were like, well, I don't mean to be that guy, but how about money? Money would be a good start. And they're like, put together a prospectus and come give us a presentation. And this was one specific individual that asked us to do this. It was actually a former, I think, boss of Pat's, but we also knew him through going to school with his kids and stuff too. But then he turned around and said, I'm going to go tell two other specific individuals about this because I think they have an appetite and they're the right people to come in and give you guys the true angel investor experience that I want to give you.
We're still getting ahead of ourselves. But before this happened, so this was one of my former employers, and at the time I was building a storage facility for him. I was the super for that project, and we had the idea, and I went to him in confidence and said, "Hey, I've got this, this thing that me and my buddy are working on in off hours. You own a construction company. Do you have any projects we could try it out on?" And
we did the.
Oh yeah, this is bad. So
Perfect.
I don't
Keep
remember
going.
this part of the story for the reason you'll get to.
Yeah, I think Nick rage blacked out after this. So he's like, yeah, we've got. I think it was like a duplex or something. It wasn't a very big project. He's like, you can try it on that. And so we're like, okay, how are we going to test this in the interim? And there was, like I said, I had access to the storage facility. And so we had a place at least to store material and work on it. We took a movie projector and we attached it to the ceiling in a high bay RV unit, in an enclosed unit, where we could close a door. And we projected that. We projected the image down onto the ground. We set up a little Rubbermaid table, and for like probably 2 weeks, we every day after work we would go pick up a piece of plywood, set it on the table. I would go to the next slide that we'd made for that portion of the puzzle, if you will, and then we would trace it out with Sharpies. And
at night or after we were working or on the weekends in the last 2 weeks of August, as you know, is really not that cool here in a metal box in the dark.
Yeah.
With another dude and 1,000 Sharpies.
That's great.
Yeah.
it's great
Cool.
hours.
Startup energies. Okay.
All right. So we get the material all set up. I've got a company that's going to come pick it up and move it for us. And I go into a meeting with the PM, who's also a friend, and I'm like, "Hey, we're super excited. We got the material coming out for you tomorrow, and we're looking at some drawings that are on his desk." And it dawns on me while I'm looking at them that when I drew this all out, I had the joist direction going the opposite way, And OSB is one of those materials that has a strength axis built into it. So it's not like you can just turn it whichever way you want. It goes in a very specific way, which was not how I designed it. So I got to walk outside and give Nick a phone call.
So
He's like, hey, man.
remember all those Sharpie?
I'm like, how did it go? Are we good? Are they excited? He's like, yeah, they're excited, but I need to explain something. And he told me what was up. And it was frustrating that it happened, but I did laugh.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know what else am I supposed to do?
Yep.
Right? Like, it doesn't change anything at this point. The punchline is that had nothing to do with proving what we were trying to accomplish, right? We proved that what we were trying to do could work. Next time, we just need to
It
make
just
sure
has to
that
be done the right way. Yeah.
in the right direction. And to your credit, you've never done that again.
No, I haven't. I learned my mistake.
So, yeah.
We did.
Proper failure.
Right.
Yeah.
Fail, you learn, and then you try to not do it again.
Yeah. And I think they were cool too about, they're like, we don't care if there's Sharpie marks all over the wood. So we weren't out anything,
No.
cool, which was nice.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they were a little confused when they showed up and were like, wow, so
What
drew
is all of that?
all of, like all over these pieces. But yeah, so somewhere in East Boise, there's a house that's got a really weird subfloor.
That's
But,
funny. That's awesome.
The before we sent it out, we had a ton of open slab space out at that storage facility, and so we at least laid it out the way that we had designed it, and fit all the pieces together. We're like, this actually, for like Sharpies in the dark, it's plus minus like a quarter inch over like 50 feet. We're
That's
like,
cool.
Like, we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
You know,
It was accurate enough given the crude means we had available to us to justify saying,
the process.
let's go spend some money.
Yeah.
now we did one more project that was like 3 times that size, also with the Sharpies, same method. And that one, we, this is construction for you though. Like we coordinated with the framer, with the super that was supposed to be out there. Everybody, we may have committed a felony in acquiring a trailer to bring the material out ourselves.
Yeah.
It's another story.
Like balling on a budget, asking for a favor, and then the cops get called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get the material out to the site, and we told them, just let us know when it's there. We'll come out. We'll take a day off of work. Both of us come out and make sure that anybody has any questions, they can install it. And no one said anything to us, and so we went out to check on, did the material show up, and it was done. And so the framer had just picked it up, installed it without talking to anybody. It was apparently intuitive enough that he was able to feel confident just putting it together. And
That's a good sign.
Yeah. That individual had also been drinking pretty heavy when we went out there. So I'm like, okay.
Also a construction.
Yeah. Yeah. Drunk framer.
Well, not
so
all the
figure it out.
I will say, not all construction sites, but
Yeah.
It does happen on occasion.
The pride moment for me on that job was there's this big curved wall when you walk into that building, and the framer's standing there telling me, he's like, yeah, it looks fine, but that I can tell you there right now, I can tell you looking at that wall that wall curve is wrong. And I'm like, okay, would you show me? And
yeah, lay it out like you normally would.
Yeah, and so he goes and he finds the center radius for that, puts a nail, grabs his string line, and he goes to trace it, and he literally traces over our markings.
He's like, well, shit. No.
Yeah, I mean, literally, he's like, okay, I guess it's fine.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah,
Technology or an innovative process could be helpful and accurate.
That was enough for us. We're like, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah.
Clearly we saved some time here, and it was how do we do this on a large scale?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's when we went and figured out how much money we needed. Talked to our old guys, and they wrote a check, and we started getting with the equipment manufacturer to get our first piece of equipment coming.
Cool.
Which it showed up the end of the summer of 2020.
Okay.
October.
Which if everybody remembers what happens the summer of
Yeah,
2020,
you had a lot of fun.
there was some interesting things happening in the world that made it made my parents question my decision to leave my good paying job.
Yes, of course.
My plan A was I'm going to go back to school, get my MBA, and I got into the MBA program at BSU, which that's my full circle there. Is I didn't want to go back there for CM, but I ended up getting my MBA there. So jumped off and was doing school, and then we took receipt of the first piece of equipment, which was damaged upon arrival, and literally Pat and I have no background in CNC anything. Like, we tell everybody we didn't know how to spell that at the beginning. And so we had to learn everything on the fly, and like it showed up and things filled with water when we turned the chiller on that were not clearly supposed to be underwater. And we both looked at each other and we're like, dude, this is bad. Like, this is a lot of money that is, I'm literally watching circuit boards go into an aquarium. Yeah. Like, this is not good.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we flick it on, and we're high-fiving. We're like, yeah, this is awesome, you know.
Make it cool noises.
And there's all these LED lights on it and everything. And like Nick said, there's the one of the circuit boards right there, and behind a clear panel, and it's when we're literally watching it fill with water. And now we're in a glorified storage unit. This one had a bathroom in it. This is our first lease space, and we have no tools. So all we could do was unplug it, and like Nick had a pocket knife.
I jammed it in the edge of it, trying to get it to separate so the water would drain out on the floor at least.
Yikes.
It was the punchline is we were not qualified to embark on the journey that we embarked down.
Yep.
And that moment right there was where we were like, okay, like we have to take this a little more seriously. We need to do more homework, more independent research, and like actually go about this with intent, not just they said it'll do this, so turn it on and make it do it, right? And so for better or worse, we couldn't sell the product to anybody out of the gate. And so we were like, okay, well, we have this piece of equipment. What can we do with it? And we started making, honestly, like arts and crafts, like coasters and Christmas tree ornaments, and like
wine boxes, Nick.
We solicited our services to make these like balsa wood boxes that could be engraved to hold a wine bottle. Except for we'd never done that before, but we're like, oh, we'll figure it out if we can get a contract to do it. Well, we did, and we got a contract for like 300 of them. And I'm like, okay, now we have to figure out how to do this. And there was a night in our journey where our wives came down to the shop because we were like, we're not going to be able to fill this order. There's not enough time in the rest of the week before Christmas, before we have to deliver these, for us to do this. We're hosed. They came down, and we all hung out in the shop until like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, staining and putting these boxes together and filling our first, legitimate order, which I think was like $480 or something. It wasn't. It was, but for us, we're like, oh, that's almost $500, dude. We're rolling in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember, our rent payment at that space was $1,600 a month. And at the time, it's so funny to look back on that, because at the time it was like, that seemed like an insurmountable amount of cash to try and just make up here with a business that we had no idea how to sell. And I mean, our backgrounds are not.
It's not machining, manufacturing.
And we've had to figure all of that out as we go.
But the punchline of the arts and crafts thing is it did a couple things for us. One, it forced us to actually learn how the equipment worked.
Yeah.
And how to manipulate it to do things, maybe not in the best practice manner, but to get to the outcome we were looking for.
Yeah.
But also it planted seeds for other revenue streams for us down down the road, which have since been very fruitful and
Cool.
And we spun a whole nother business off of just being able to do that we separated from Flashpoint, which is not part of this conversation. But the punchline is we learned how to use it.
Yeah.
Which was invaluable in the grand scheme of things. And it allowed us then to go back to the task at hand and say, okay, now that we know how to get it to move in the XYZ direction and up and down and fire on, turn off, not fill up with water, all that fun stuff, let's start refining our process to where our product and our service, that process is actually, it's dialed. And we continue to do that, but there was very far leaps and bounds just from a calibration and an accuracy standpoint that we didn't know how to solve for in the beginning, that because we built Christmas ornaments and wine boxes, we learned how to do that and then applied it to the product and made it infinitely better.
Nice.
So once we got to a point with the equipment where we knew that we could be repeatable in the accuracy and consistent in the product that we were pushing out, we started talking to people. And one of the things that came up was Pat got a targeted Instagram ad for the Hacking for Home Building Challenge that Boise State and Franklin Building Supply put on every year. This is summer of 21. And so we've been making a lot of arts and crafts for a year. But anyway, so that ad comes across. Pat's like, well, do you think that we could apply to that and see what happens? I'm like, we're not doing anything else, so shoot your shot. So we put our application in, we get in, we end up winning it. And that draws the attention of Franklin Building Supply. And they're like, okay, what as a startup and us as an industry partner can we do together to help, give you some tailwind? And we're like, honestly, what's killing us right now is paying for and coordinating the logistics behind moving all this heavy material to a remote location away from where it's already being handled. We're double and triple handling everything. And so Franklin, Levi Smith at Franklin was like, well, what if we carved out some space for you guys to operate in our lumberyard to where we can handle the logistics of the heavy stuff. You guys just do what you do well and start generating awareness. And we're like, that would be amazing. He goes, okay, well, come to the yard and come see what we can carve out for you. And we're like, sweet, we're going to go over there and there's going to be this bathroom and a heated space and we can put our logo on the door and blah, blah, blah. And we're walking around and he's like, well, what do you think? And we're looking at this canopy and it's open. It's literally just a metal roof. And I'm like, well, I don't know that this is going to work because we have to have power and a conditioned space, keep rain off of the equipment, things like that. And he's like, well, how about this? You guys build it out. You guys go through, put the walls up, do the design. We'll provide all the materials. We'll help you guys get all the stuff delivered over here, but you're the labor and you're responsible for doing the shell, if you will. For clarity, neither of us have framed anything. Right? We've built bike ramps for ourselves when we were kids and stuff like that, redneck ingenuity type things. But I'm like, well, this is what he's given us. We're going to make it work. So Pat and I put our proverbial bags on and we framed and sealed up this building. We had a buddy that has a roofing company that we hired to do the metal sheeting on the outside just so it was actually weathered in. But we did all the framing, insulation, setting the doors, the windows, short of the garage doors and the outside sheathing, we did everything ourselves. And in hindsight, that was also an invaluable lesson for us because it also forced us to actually walk in the shoes of the people that we had previously managed, but had never actually done the job that they did.
Yep.
And so I think in hindsight, that was worth its weight in gold for us to go through that process. And we're not talking about anything pretty. There's still some pretty not great craftsmanship in our work, but it hasn't fallen down.
Sure.
So check the box. But yeah, so we got the space, we moved our equipment over there and we started operating out of that yard. And in that same duration, we had also got the attention of a top production builder that was moving to our market that had an appetite for innovation and they wanted to have a conversation with us. So we engaged them at our original shop location. We negotiated a price to do over 100 single-family homes over the course of the next year and a half. And then, part of moving to Franklin was a lot of like, we have to get ourselves where we can just focus on servicing that contract and not worrying about like what Christmas ornaments we have to make rent.
Yeah.
And so that was a great big anchor contract for us.
Yeah.
One, so we could focus on growing the business and working on the business, but also it allowed us to prove the business model.
Were you guys already full-time in it at that point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I went full-time the summer of 20, and then Pat jumped off January 1st of, I guess, 22. So December 21, right when we were making the transition from the first shop location to the new location. So, yeah. So then we started going down that rabbit hole and servicing that contract and getting some reps, iterating, and actually capturing a data set that allowed us to justify and market to others what the value proposition was.
And I would say that too, as we were doing that, things evolved past what we thought it was going to be very simple. Like, hey, you give us the plans, we'll print them, send it back. And the reality was, working through the process with the contractor there was a ton of stuff that we realized was value add up front that we were doing. Doing a lot of clash detection for them simply because we had to do it to make the plans work.
Make sure it's actually going to work instead of just print something that's wrong or broken or
yeah. And then too, we had a really good working relationship with the manager at that development too. And so they trusted us to make changes to the plans that they knew they didn't have time to go back to their corporate architectural and have them, send out a new set of prints or something. So we would get phone calls like, hey, we had a shipment of shower pans that didn't show up and we had to order new ones and they're a different size, which means the bathroom changes. Can you guys move a wall? And I was like, yeah, we can absolutely move a wall. We could do that right now.
All over the place because this is when the supply chain totally fell apart after COVID, specifically to building materials. And they were just taking what they could get their hands on.
And so I think they recognized pretty quickly in that instance, like, hey, this is something that the ball would have gotten dropped between the 5 different people that had to be communicated to actually make sure that it goes into the project correctly. And there's just one less thing they had to think about. So
nice.
And having those kind of conversations too is, I think, really valuable for us to figure out where those kind of value opportunities lied, specifically with large production builders. Everyone wants to do a semi-custom home because customers really want custom homes, but the permitting effort of doing one-offs doesn't make sense for most builders. And so there's this mentality they get into where it's like, okay, we've got 20 plans. Pick one.
Yeah.
But it's not 20 plans. It's 200 plans because for every plan that you've got 3 or 4 different options.
Variations, yeah.
And then they all want to have a design studio that allows the customer to come in and pick out have their finishes and this thing, that thing. And those sometimes change, framing components. Things like a medicine cabinet, for instance, change where a stud might go in a wall. A certain bathtub might change, dimensions for a bathroom. Like it's little things, and those little things cost contractors a ton of money if they're not accounted for.
Yeah.
One thing specifically, I was building my own house at the time, using again a large contractor, and we had done the exact same process. We went in, we chose the house layout we wanted, the options we wanted. And one of the things that we wanted specifically was square openings instead of arches everywhere. And sure enough, we show up to walk the house. There's arches everywhere.
Yeah.
Which, if you've ever framed an arch, is not a very simple or quick task. And so I can only imagine how frustrated they were going back through and tearing.
We want to rip those out.
Yeah. Not only did they waste the time putting them in that they didn't need to, but then they had to pull them out.
Yeah.
And it was because the plan set that was there was the one permit set that they use to get through, city and county, and that was it. You know? Our options that we chose were in a little packet
somewhere else.
The one superintendent that manages 15 builds at a time is trying to figure that out. And so for us, we're like, okay, we know these things are happening. Let's get all of your builders options too for every single one. And they're like, you can do that? Like, I don't see why we can't do that. So let's try it. And that ended up being a huge value add for them. So
yeah, we basically got ourselves in a position where we built out base files that represented all of the starting points that somebody could pick from. And then we built layers that represented the options they could choose that we could just turn on and off.
Yeah.
Which made from an iteration standpoint, it allowed us to go way faster after that initial programming effort was completed.
Yeah.
Because then they could just call us and say, this is the lot number, this is the floor plan type, this is the options that were selected, and this is the lumber drop date.
Yep. And then you put it
almost as fast, it was clicking things on and off. And then really the only time we had at that point was the production time to actually handle the sheets and push them through. So yeah, it worked out really, really well. The metric that we got that we can definitively say and is undeniable is we went from a framing duration on a 2,200 square foot house, the typical framing duration for a crew that was not using the integrated layout system was between 14 and 16 days, depending on the things that were selected in the floor plan. With us being involved after 50, 60 iterations and them getting over the learning curve and knowing how to leverage our system, that same framing crew was framing the same exact house in 8 or 9 days. So you're talking 40+% improvement in just framing duration.
Yeah.
Not even talking about any of the subsequent trades being the rough in and the finishes, which we then later found out after these homes were turned over to homeowners, that the contractor was seeing dramatically less warranty and callback work in the homes that we were involved in versus the ones we were not. And the reason for that was everything that we provided was square and accurate dimensionally. And so if the contractors show up on site and they build it per the plan that's literally at their feet, then their finishes that all come in square modules go into the square inside corner, or which is a novel concept, right?
Yeah.
Squares fit into squares nicely.
Yes.
But yeah, just the warranty and the level of quality that they were able to achieve while eliminating the rework and flushing out the potential coordination issues up front, like all those things just compounded to the point where it was like, man, this is even bigger than what we thought we could provide from a value standpoint.
Yeah.
And so from there, a lot of the value add is qualitative, right? Like how do you put a price on job site morale?
Yeah.
When contractors show up and they're like, I know that everybody understands why doing their job before me is important, so I can do my job the right way when I show up and how I expected to do it. That it's very hard to put value to that.
Yeah.
It's easy to put value to, hey, we shave 8 days off of the project schedule in framing alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one too that we talk about a lot is reputation of the builder. One of the things that we specifically went through on that project and did was we looked for stuff that gets missed a lot. That's usually backing for towel bars, things like that, paper holders. You could put them into drywall, but
they rip out all the time.
They're gonna rip out. So
I think every house I've ever been in, almost.
so you just moved into this new house that you paid $700,000 plus for, and the first time you take a shower, you go to grab your towel and it rips. The bar rips off the wall.
The hook falls off the wall.
It doesn't matter how great the rest of the house is built. You are now, as the customer, doubting the reputation of that builder and everything else in the home, and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so if we can save the reputation of the builder by making sure the little things get taken care of, that goes a long way with your customer base.
And perception is reality, right? Like it doesn't matter if that was literally the only thing that was accidentally missed and it was not on purpose. It's true accident. somebody perceives that as their reality. And then you get into the position where these contractors are having to prove their innocence. Right?
Yeah.
It turns into sometimes a witch hunt.
Yeah.
And like that costs money.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort to allocate people and resources that otherwise could be providing real value to satisfy, maybe these untruths, right? That somebody has generated in their mind because they did some YouTube university and Googling.
Yeah.
Slippery slope.
Yeah. From idea to you got 100 houses to do, and that was 2022.
Yeah. Through the end of 22.
So what did growth look like from there to where you are now? What I mean, without going through every year, like what did the changes look like? What did the growth look like? Improve,
We started taking on more project, I guess, typologies. We started dabbling into commercial space. We did hotel, multiple apartment buildings spanning from Idaho, Montana, and Utah. And that from there, we proved the model was not just a single family residential application, right? We really proved that it's wood frame construction. That's how it can be applied. And honestly, we figured out that the economies of scale work in everybody's favor much better when you have a similar floor plate that you're printing over and over and over and over again, whether that be single family or multifamily, same deck stacking. So we cut our teeth, made connections there. We ended up kind of having the same, I guess, pivot for Pat and I to say BEW, Boise Entrepreneur Week, is coming up. Let's apply to that and see what we can do. And we applied, made it through all the semifinals, and we won that in 23, which then generated more awareness and more interest.
Yeah.
And that
you're just winning everywhere you go.
Everywhere. Everything you touch turns to gold. I just can't keep track of it. But yeah, so that was that generated a lot of awareness for us. And then in 2024, we went to Vegas to the International Builders Show. And because we felt like we had enough tailwind and awareness, we were like, hey, we need to go like see what people think of this outside of the Boise bubble. And we went to Vegas. We entered another category for the most innovative construction tool. We ended up winning that.
Told you. Dang it.
That was great awareness for us because we were up against like billion-dollar companies like Capella in that category. And two guys in the garage took it.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But that experience then proved to us that there's people not just in Boise that have interest in this or in the States, but people from all over the world.
Yep.
International Builder Show, right? Like there's people from all over the place that were like, I've never seen anybody do anything like this.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this? And so we had to give a very condensed version of what we're talking about here.
Well, there was a beer and there was a shark with lasers and here we are
on fire. But yeah, so that, and we've just tried to stack up those pieces of tailwind and continually, raise awareness and let people know that it wasn't a hot flash in the pan in 21.
Yeah.
This is real. Yeah. This is where things are going. And I think we're getting there. Anybody in construction, especially in the technology side, will agree that it is very hard from an adoption and uptake specific to changing somebody's process. And so we have made a concerted effort to try to make our product and service so seamless when it integrates to their process that they don't even know the difference except for all the upsides when they start collecting them.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. It's very difficult to convince somebody that's been doing something the same way for decades that they have a formula for, they know what it produces, and they trust, especially when they're going into the end of their career, to try something new.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing right now is the sentiment is there's enough pent-up demand and angst and uncertainty in our industry right now specifically that people are honestly being forced to relook at their formula because it's not producing what it used to. There's a lot of folks that are choosing this as their opportunity to sail off into the sunset and hand the baton to somebody else.
Yep.
And so we're very optimistic in the opportunities that are lying ahead of us in the next specifically 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
just from a leadership change standpoint.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that want fresh ideas, new ways of doing things. And so we're trying to position ourselves and scream as loud as we can from the rooftop that we're here, we have a solution that's proven, it works, and it's not another piece of software that you have to train your whole staff on to use.
Yeah.
It's actually a field implementation tool that makes us unique relative to a lot of other construction technology companies.
Yeah.
Most of which build a product to serve the designer and the more skilled side of the AEC equation, rather than provide a tool that is a conduit from the design team to the people who put the work out in the field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very different gap being filled. The industry is overloaded with new technology. Which, is a lot of what our conference and all that is about, right? Like robots walking around and drones flying and laser scanners. But I would almost say, and you're experiencing what you're experiencing, but I would almost say the adoption of a tool is a lot harder than convincing the adoption of like what you guys do.
Yeah.
Because you're actually doing the work for them. You're solving the problem without the team having to learn the new tool and the software and the process and change the plan. It's splitting in the middle, but solving a problem or providing the benefit that it does.
I think, yes, I would agree with you in that an actual tool, whether it be a robot running around or drones or whatever, it can be intimidating. But I would also argue that it's very difficult for somebody to change their process willingly.
Yeah.
Unless it's not performing how they want it to.
Yeah.
And frankly, up until this year, everybody has been making really good money by applying the formula that has been tried and true.
Yep.
It hasn't been until the last 12 to 18 months where the climate and the economy has changed to the point where that formula is not producing the same results. That's forcing people to then go back and look and say, hey, is the process broken, or do we need to insert new tools, new tech to help supplement or provide more value? It depends on probably somebody's disposition on which they would favor first.
Yep. But
I being the business operations process production guy, I'm like, always look at your process first. That's the one thing that you cannot do it the exact same way you've done it for 100 years and expect it to produce the same.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Well, and I think the other piece that comes into play with any of the technologies and any industry and any innovation is also that even if it's always worked the way that it's always worked, and it could keep working that way, if people are innovating, and if somebody starts adopting a technology or an innovation, it's literally only a matter of time before all of it starts to shift that way.
Yep.
Back to the simple, not industry specific, examples, but Blockbuster to Netflix, right? It's like, oh no, we focus on movies that people rent and watch. We don't, streaming. Who's going to do that? Well, there's no more Blockbusters. You could think I'm going to hold on to the old way, but when something like streaming started taking over, it shifted into the construction process. You could say the same thing with BIM. Of no, we're just going to keep doing it by hand and CAD and drawings, BIM technology, whatever. Well, what do most jobs require now for the design process? Yeah. Many of them, you have to do it that way. And we see that with other emerging technologies. A lot of what we've talked about is laser scanners and such. When I started in scanning, nobody knew what it was. Nobody asked for it. It was only at the phase of like, we see the benefit, so we want to do it for our use case.
Yeah. Early adopters.
Now, hospitals, airports, right here in the hometown, Micron, many big clients, it is a requirement somewhere in the project that it has to be done. Because whether you had to have it or not, you didn't, right? They used to build without it, but once it's adopted somewhere, and the ROI is proven, and certain people start to adopt it, that swing happens of a nice to have to we know the benefits enough that it has to happen now.
Yep.
And unless, if there's cons, then maybe that process doesn't happen all the way. Yep. If the benefits outweigh the cons, even the difficulty of change of process or, buying a new tool or whatever it is, if the benefits are there, I think then it does just become a matter of time.
It's the classic adoption bell curve, right? That everybody talks about. You have the early innovators that represent, the 2% at the very bottom part of the left-hand side of the bell curve. You go into early adopters, which represent the next maybe 15%.
Yep.
And then you have the mass adoption,
yep,
which represents that big tick. And then your laggards that just pick it up because everybody else is doing it.
Yep.
But I think we're still in the infancy, both as an organization, but also as an industry. We're still in that early adopter window where it's not all being mass adopted yet.
So, what does your level of production or are you guys staying busy? Is it still the two of you, or have you built a team, or what does that kind of look like right now?
This is a good segue into kind of what we've been doing from an R&D standpoint. Cool. and how would we ever get to to mass satisfying mass adoption, satisfying the demand for the product. We've been told on multiple instances that we started this company in possibly the worst environment in the country to do it. And that's just to say that the contractors in Boise have been maybe a little bit behind the curve. And I think that's a little bit to what Nick just said, that, things, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think, folks, especially our experience at the International Builder Show showed us that there's a huge demand for it across the country. So, with that in mind, what we're doing right now is we've been operating that little building at Franklin Building Supply we've got 2 tables in there right now. And what we're doing is we're taking those tables, we've redesigned them, and we've put them into the confines of a 40-foot shipping container. We call this the iOS Outpost, and it's got an auto loader at one end, an auto unloader at the other end. So basically, a lumberyard could purchase this piece of equipment, land it at their facility. They don't need to have a new building or anything. They just need to run power to it. Take a forklift, load material in from one side. We take care of all the programming. They need an operator to hit go. And it basically grabs the material, pushes it through, and prints it, cuts it to size, pushes it out the other end. The goal being that we could put one of these fairly autonomous boxes at almost any lumber distributor in the country, and give access to the service that we've created.
The immediate hurdle for us in scaling what we developed was moving that material around and double and triple handling it. That was going to make it economically not pencil again. And so we're like, okay, how do we create the equipment solution leg of the stool to where it can be deployed to wherever the material's already being handled, and just have it intercept it in that workflow. And so by self-containing it does a lot of things, but it solves that problem primarily for us. And it also takes us out of the production and logistics game, which is not our core competency.
Yeah.
And we've had to do that to date to prove the model and get the minimum viable product.
Okay.
But it removes us from that environment, and it also allows those individuals that do that well to do that for us. And basically where we go is we go from a B2C model to a B2B, and we leverage the building materials distributors and suppliers across the country to enable them to upsell this service to their already existing customer base without getting in the commodity game, without actually directly soliciting these customers and consumers to then pair with the lumber material distributors.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to look at this as an equipment solution that then we primarily collect fee based off of the usage and the subscription, I guess, if you will. It very closely mimics a printer company.
Yeah.
You lease the equipment and then you get charged based on how much throughput you put through it.
Yeah.
The only exception to that being that we're going to be responsible for creating the drawings.
Okay.
So
still doing the...
Yeah, so the lumber distributor doesn't have to get into any of those details about programming the machine or anything like that. We communicate with the machine via satellite uplink directly. So truly, they just need an operator to make sure that the equipment's running smoothly, nothing got jammed.
And then you still do you still scale and do the front end work of some of those value add support of coordination and the drawings and the
exactly, and that allows us to retain quality control on our process and grow the product from what we believe it needs to be. While allowing that service to be available nationwide.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that piece of equipment's been under production for 2 years now. Little under 2 years. And we are proud to say it is complete. And so we're
very cool.
If it's not here by Thanksgiving, it will be here shortly thereafter.
Very cool.
We're racing the holidays right now.
Might have to come by and check it out.
Yeah, we'll light some stuff on fire.
There you go. That'd be fun. I know we've already talked about a lot of the journey and the challenges, but I want to actually hit on a few of those things specifically. If you had to think about what has been the biggest challenge as a startup?
Cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash flow is really hard.
Yeah. That's my answer too.
I mean,
always has been.
you with a good idea and a tight script, you can always go out and find money.
Mm-hmm.
Then the question becomes, how much are you willing to give up in exchange for that?
Mm-hmm.
That's, money is the root of all evil, right? But that being said, I think the at least from my perspective, second to that, and maybe it's a tie, is just like believing in yourself every day. It's really easy to get knocked down over and over and over and over and over again and be like, dude, I don't know how much more I can give this. And I have so much invested. I understand that with one more push of the button, we could hit the big one.
Just one more.
But
just one more
at the same time, it's like you have to put food on the table, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a balance between, making sure that you are situationally aware enough to be making good business decisions, not in a desperate move.
Yep.
Doing what you need to do to keep food on the table right now. So it's a balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and we had a specific client that we did multiple projects for that they were hesitant to get started. And then once we got into it, we had kind of gotten sold a false bill of goods with what they had promised on their end.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, this is a new product. It's something, a small change of process, but if people aren't understanding what's going on, it could be confusing to someone who didn't know that was the plan.
Yeah.
And why we asked for certain things to be done, control point setup, stuff like that. And so we got in with a contractor that we had all of our pre-con meetings, everyone's high-fiving, and then we go out to the job site and it's a completely different crew.
Mm-hmm.
And from there too, working with that individual, going through different things, they kept wanting to change small things here and there that we looked back on afterwards, and it was more of a resistance to that person wanting to even work with us to begin with than it was the product. Because we're like, if it works on all these other job sites, why does it not work for this one person? And but that was, again, it was one of those things that was like, we need to at least have the confidence to say, hey, the thing that we built does work.
Yeah.
We are confident that it works. We know it works. And if you just trust us, we can help you through this. And so not every change is the right change. And there will always be people that doubt something new that are going to, they're, and I can see too, as specifically as a framer, if no one told you that we were going to do this, and
You're like, what the heck?
You're like, you know,
This isn't how I do stuff.
we were dealing with a complete language barrier there too. Like it was a lot of things all at once.
Yeah.
But,
Just because one customer wants you to include a feature does not mean that it's worth your time or is a good idea to do it. We knew that going into it, but again, sometimes when you're in a moment of desperation, it seems like that feature is going to make or break the deal.
Yep.
You say, okay, you said jump.
Yeah.
Tell me how high.
Back to startup mode. You're like, sure, we'll make ornaments and wine boxes and what else? What else do you want done?
Yeah.
Can we do it? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I would say the other one too, specific to this product that's been difficult is, because what we're doing has so many value implications across the entire build cycle. It has been difficult to pinpoint who's supposed to pay for that.
Yes.
And for us, we look at it as, well, the customer is ultimately going to be taking ownership of this building. They want the highest quality.
Yep.
The general contractor is, I think, benefiting probably the most off of, the mistakes and the margin captured, by doing things correctly.
Yep.
But we've seen it a lot of cases where, if we're including the framing package, well, we want our framer to give a kickback.
Yeah.
We want our electrician to give a kickback.
Yeah.
Because we did their way out. And
which immediately turns us to persona non grata with all the subs that they're going to be using.
Yeah.
Because we took margin away.
So understanding when we need to get involved in the project too has been, we can't shoehorn this in. The contract that's already established. Because again, like Nick said, that it just irritates everyone.
Yep.
But going into it, knowing, hey, this is the plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think we'll get there. Like I said, it worked really well when we were doing that with a large national builder.
Yep.
But there's certainly a time and a place to do everything.
So, yeah.
Most of the time we've been soliciting ourselves to general contractors, and there's only been 3 that I can remember right now where we've gone above that to the owner or developer direct, then had them push it down. And in all 3 of those instances, it has been a much more fruitful partnership and outcome, just from a perception standpoint, right? Like the product was no different, but because we got in at the right time, the right person, then the expectation was set to say, yeah, we're doing this and we're putting a budget line item for that. Rather than later getting to the table and say, hey, we're going to start building this in 2 weeks. Who
do we take away from, or
we can pull from, or where can we carve it out of, right? Which is, it's not a good way to start the project.
Yeah. So what's the reason that you keep going through the difficulties? What's the why behind, like you said, sometimes the hardest part is like even believing enough to keep going through. And startups are hard. Entrepreneurship's hard. There's lots of difficulties, and many people want to give up when that hits.
Not to be that guy, but I have a wife. I now have 2 daughters that we've since we started the startup, and Pat has the same scenario at his house. He's got a son and a daughter that he's had since we started this. So, waking up to them and then putting them to bed every night is a pretty good why. But outside of that, for me, even before that, and I got married after we had started this, but before then, I had developed a true empathy for the guys that I worked with in the field every day. And getting to know them and understanding what their background was, and then like saying, oh, dude, John is having a really bad day. And on top of it, there's 6 inches of snow out there that he's trying to battle, right? Like my empathy for that person in the field that actually gets beaten over the brow with the plan set was my, I guess, my tailwind to say, okay, take a chance. Like the worst thing that happens is nothing changes, and this is just life. But if you don't do it, then you don't know what kind of impact you could have had. So I think first and foremost for me is family, and second, and probably a tie to that is the guys in the field.
Yeah.
They bust their butts every single day, and it's ultimately up to them whether or not something gets actually done or not. And you can have a best laid plan, but if you don't have somebody who executes, you just have a plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Nick said, both on the family side and then the empathy for the guys out in the field that are actually trying to do this. I think we've both, from our time in the on sites, I've seen a guy put a nail through his hand, pull himself off of the wall with a cat's paw, put a piece of duct tape on it, and go right back to work because, quite honestly, they need the paycheck. Probably don't have health insurance. And that's just kind of the state of the union around construction in general. Specifically, Idaho as a state, we don't have a ton of strong unions here. There's a lot of elements to the work that gets done that is very much the Wild West.
Yeah.
And if we can make life better for those people, then that's something we want to do. The other side for me, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning with being a little bit disenfranchised with the architecture and engineering industry, and coming out of that was, it seemed like all of the tools that are getting, put out right now, are all really kind of centered around the designers and clients. So if you think about like VR goggles and things like that, there's your normal lay person in the field isn't going to use a tablet.
Nope.
Stuff like that. It's just even a simple piece of equipment like that, it's going to get broken or damaged. And that's not to say that that's always going to be the case, but at least right now, most of the tools coming out are designed for people that are a little bit higher in the
up to that point, and then the field, the actual field labor and stuff, the same process.
And so how do we take all of the benefits that the industry is experiencing and make those readily available in something that was simple and easy to use for the person actually having to do the work.
Very cool. You guys are still deep in innovating, building, trying, scaling. You have visions ahead of you. What keeps you excited right now?
What we don't know. The potential partnerships that we believe that we can capitalize on and actually get the needle to move with. Right now, it's been very much bootstrap by like every definition.
Yep.
And that that level of persistence and perseverance, iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
But at the same time, like, we recognize that we can only do that as two people for so long. And so being able to have the opportunity to bring fresh ideas and faces and expertise onto the team, and then partner with industry partners that align with our vision and mission to elevate the industry as a whole, that's super exciting.
Yeah.
And we've only been able to do that on a very small, localized scale in this little experiment that we've been running. And we're finally at the point now where, with having the new ILS Outpost, it allows us to actually go out and court some bigger opportunities because we can scale.
You can take it to them.
Yeah, we have the implementation tool to do it. It's just a function of, where do we start first?
Yeah.
So that's the growth.
Yeah.
The growth part, right? It's like having kids. Once you have them, it's like, this is so cool, but now I have to teach you things like keep alive and then ultimately see what, the lessons and the effort you've put into that child ultimately blossom into when they decide to get free will and start doing things on their own.
Yeah. Well, and startups, just like children, you can't hope that all happens in the first year.
Yeah.
You're like, most really successful people say that the difference between a startup or a professional that grows and scales something successful, like 90% of it is actually just the consistency and commitment to keep going.
Yeah.
Like,
keep showing up.
You just keep doing it. Back to your point about kids, it's like You don't just win. Like, it's not a certain date that it just happens.
Yeah.
You keep doing it. Every year is something new, something different, something, all the way to the point you graduate.
It's funny you mention that, because we had a client that the conversation basically went, "Oh, you guys are still here."
Yeah.
And it was like, they're like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
and they wanted to do business, and was like, "Well, yeah, but we were here 5 years ago. What's changed?" "Well, you're still here." That's, that there's no substitute, I think, for time.
Yes.
And just being able to say, "Hey, we have been around.
Yes.
It's working for other people. It can work for you too."
Yeah. Well, and a few things that stand out to me. One, your first point of like something that's exciting is what you don't know. It's the unknown. It's the curiosity that entrepreneurs or startups have of like one more thing you try. You're constantly taking a step forward.
Open a door, look around a corner, lift up a rock.
Yep.
You have no idea what's going to be there.
Yep. Yeah, and it's just the consistency toward that vision that you lay out, and the other part being, we were talking about this a little bit a minute ago, is the potential of how do you get in front of people.
Mm-hmm.
A saying that I kind of stuck onto a while back is even about a book from an author, is that the best-selling book is not necessarily the best-written book.
Yeah,
it is the best-known book. Is that people can't buy from you if they don't know you exist.
Right.
And this is part of our goal, even with this podcast and bringing people in, and something we want to try to help other people do or inspire other people to do is use tools to create content, to get in front of people. There are so many people that are innovative, that want to try new things, that want to be on leading edge. But then there's startups that are all around the country, different cities, different states that nobody even knows about.
Right.
Is like, becoming known, and keeping that consistent foot forward in relationship building, because collaboration, finding companies that align with and actually working together, like, it just compounds everything.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, I told you we've been told that, maybe Boise was the worst place to start this. And again, having the new equipment to allow us to scale. To the quote that keeps coming back to my mind is that you're never a prophet in your hometown. We found out very quickly at the Builder Show that there's a huge appetite for innovation across the country. It might not be right here.
Yeah.
Because we're here, it might not be here.
I think we're getting there, though. Like, just the influx of new ideas and perspective from people moving here from other places.
Yeah.
That's changing the landscape and the leadership mentality of this town more than time itself.
My honest feel, I've talked with a lot of people, and I've worked on projects all around the country in my past with doing survey and scanning and BIM and all of that. I don't completely agree that I think that a startup building something new could be successful in any climate. Mm-hmm. And I would say all of the problems we've talked about change and about construction and about process, they're the same in every state, in every city, and every maybe if you were in a certain spot that was in proximity to some other different big company that but all of them across the country, which is why the conference we hosted here, right? We had people from 17 countries and 40 states fly to Boise to talk about the same things, because there are pockets of people who are innovative, that are pushing, that are bleeding edge from all over the place. Mm-hmm. But they also all struggle with the same things of how do we get people to adopt this? What's the ROI? How do I build the value? And it doesn't matter if it's a drone or a scanner or a printer or a CNC, anything.
Right.
So I think that you do have the same thing I've seen with those other technologies. Getting to a point that you can work with people nationally or in different states will definitely open those opportunities, because there are companies out there that are looking for anything new. They do want to lead. They're investing in R&D. And same with when I was owning and doing scanning, most of our work, even though I live here, was not here. Mm-hmm. Like, it was getting pulled to go work on a big project in Dallas and then go to New York and then work in California. And however, if I got a challenge of like, can you build a scanning company only in Boise? It's like, absolutely, because maybe I have to approach it differently. Maybe the margins are smaller. However, if the value is there, can you build the case and get into the local construction firms and the microns and the food plants and there's people everywhere that need the same thing, and the value is still there for them. It's just that process of how do we get them to opt it? How do we get to change? How do we prove the ROI? No matter where it's at.
Well, and for me, hearing that, like, I take that as a challenge, and I'm like, okay, I'll prove it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of my disposition in most things. Like, I don't do well when somebody double dog dares me.
Yep.
But, that being said, if that statement is true and we are successful, it's going to blow up.
Exactly. So if you can build it and do it in a climate or in an area that is typically slower to adopt or whatever, and you test it here, you prove it out here, it's easier for you to do because it's local. Then taking it somewhere else will just be even better as it grows. Well, as we wrap up, what else? Anything else you guys would like to share about where you're headed? Any other things we didn't hit on?
I don't think so. Thanks for your time and the platform.
Yeah.
And I guess for us, we also have recognized that there's lots of entrepreneurs and startups and just people in the industry that don't always have somebody else as a sounding board to reach out to ask questions of or try to use to help them flesh ideas out.
Yep.
And so we've really leaned into our local entrepreneurial community. But that being said, if anybody, hears this and feels like they see a bit of themselves or they want to elaborate on things, like, we are totally open to collaboration and furthering that conversation, because similar to the network that you've created, like, if we're all operating in silos, we really can't accomplish much.
Yeah.
So it's all about who you know and then who you're working with.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's part of our mission with building this community is connecting people. Because people, to try to build only in a silo by yourself, it's lonely. People say that all the time. Entrepreneurship is lonely, or it's difficult. And to connect with like-minded people who also are going through that can, jump in a chat room and talk about the challenges they're going through, or even, we don't have any type of formal process for this now, but we've talked about it, thought about it, is also building like a mentorship program or building a process to help actually purposefully connect the right people of like, hey, we're in the process of looking for investors, or we're in the process of trying to do a startup. Like, there's different people in the mix that can help at different stages. Right now it's really organic. Like, okay, we pull people together in a conference, we throw them in, our community platform, and it's kind of organic conversation, but we love the idea of like, how can we keep helping people at the stage they're at? So I appreciate you adding that.
Yeah.
So very final question is, with everything you have learned and the challenges you've been going through and where you are and where you're headed, what would your advice to yourself, let's say 10 years ago now, be?
You are going to underestimate dramatically how much time and effort it is going to take to achieve the riches you think that you are going to get in exchange. But if you're doing it for the right reason, you're going to get so much more fulfillment out of what you're doing because you're doing it versus taking a paycheck. The value that I have received in being in charge and making decisions and being ultimately accountable to myself first and foremost has paid me far more than any of the money that we've been able to use to buy groceries. And I trust in what I'm doing is for the right reasons, and it will pay off later. At this point, it's just money, right? Just figure it out. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, the money will follow.
That was good.
I would say I had a really impactful conversation with an older architect, kind of around the time that we were looking at starting this, and he told me that when they were running their company, an employee is an asset, and you look at that person as, what are they bringing in? What are they what do their billables look like? And which, I mean, obviously that's economics of employment. But he goes, the ratio that is fairly common is like a 60-40, right? So for every dollar they bring in, the employee gets 40 cents, we keep 60, right? He goes, so look at your salary, what you're making right now, and don't doubt yourself that your value is plus, that other 60%, right? And I think for a lot of people, they get out of school, they go into a professional career, whatever, and especially the first like good paycheck you make, you look at it and you're like, wow, I did that, and that's like a really exciting feeling. But there's the other side of it too, that after a few years, you kind of look at it and you're like, man, can I make more money? Do I have the value? And having the ability to look at it through that lens and go, well, the only reason I have this job is because I'm bringing in more value than what they're paying me. The whole lesson in that is just don't doubt yourself.
Know your worth.
Know your worth. People will constantly tell you, stay in this box. This is where you belong. Take the leap of faith, if you will. And if you've got an idea, if you really have the heart to pursue it, then do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Love both of those shares. I think it's, I love talking about the journey and entrepreneurship in whole, and because really your starting statement too, it's going to take way longer, it's going to be way harder, you're going to make way less, you're going to work more, you're going to that's not what most people step into entrepreneurship thinking.
That's not what the internet calls
No, that's not the highlight of what entrepreneurship today is. Today, people think, okay, yeah, you can just become a millionaire, like making videos and, or start this app and sell it for $1 billion. Like, it's so easy. Yes, take all these courses. Now, I believe there's a lot of that's great. And there's a lot of people who find a path with some of those things. 98% of startups, that is not the case. It is way harder. You don't make money. You work more. You're stressed. Which is where that line comes, where it's back to, why are you thinking about doing it in the first place? Most successful people will tell you, if it's only for the money, you're going to fail.
Yep.
You're going to quit. You're going to give up. You don't believe in it enough. It's hard work. If you actually have a reason that's going to push you through those things, then maybe you consider doing it.
Yeah.
And I said last week, I think that is the true reason for the percentage statements about why startups fail.
Yeah.
I think that the whole stats of whatever it is, 90% of startups in the first 7 years or whatever, I truly think that the large majority of that is misalignment of expectations and then giving up because of that. Not because the startup can't work, not because you can't start a company or build it, but it's way harder than you think. There's so much more involved that most people would rather have a normal job. Yet, if you're the one that's willing to go through that and you believe in it and you want to drive it, and you then, back to what was said, right? The fulfillment that can come out of believing in yourself, building something that impacts others, and maybe it will have a financial reward. But if that's the byproduct, not the only focus, most people that it's the only focus is where I think the failure comes from.
That's common in anything in life, right? Like, it's really easy to start anything. It is really hard to keep doing it when you don't want to.
Yep.
Or when conditions are not right, or things are difficult and not ideal. It's very difficult for somebody to say, no, I said I was going to do this, I'm going to follow through.
Yep. And
the people that make a whole lot of money are the ones that do that.
Yeah.
And it's not on day one.
Yeah. The other thing I still, as much as it's interesting sitting with entrepreneurs saying like, oh, people shouldn't become entrepreneurs. It's like, well, however, I love making sure that anytime I talk about entrepreneurship, also it's like, it's totally okay if that's not you.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be a number 2 and a number 3 and managers and employee, and if that's your route and you're not the guy that wants to jump and be the visionary and take the risk, and there's a lot of pain that comes with that, we need everybody else too. And so, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, that's not what I'm cut out for. Because, and I tell the same thing for my team. I'm like, look, if someone else decides to take another route, start a business, I will encourage you, but make sure you know what you're going into if you do that. However, I also hope some of you don't, because I really like you and need you. You need a team. You need that. So I think
entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship.
Yes, entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm.
It's just how much you choose to embrace one or the other that makes you one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you very much for your shares and value add. Look forward to seeing some more of your journey, and we'll have to come check out what you're working on when it shows up.
Yeah. Where there's
All right.
smoke, there's fire.
All right. Thank you guys for coming in today.
Cool.